Have you ever gazed up at the night sky and felt the weight of something far greater than yourself? That overwhelming sense of wonder, the humbling realization that we're just a tiny speck in an unimaginably vast cosmos. It's a feeling that has haunted and inspired humanity for centuries. But what if I told you there's a way to experience the universe that goes beyond cold, hard facts and data, a way where science and art intertwine to reveal the cosmos in ways that stir the soul and ignite the imagination? Welcome to the Cosmic Renaissance, a movement where the boundaries between astronomy and creativity blur, where artists become storytellers of the stars, and every brushstroke carries the echo of a distant galaxy. Think about the last time you saw a breathtaking image of a nebula or a swirling galaxy. Now, imagine that same celestial wonder reimagined through the eyes of a Renaissance painter, a digital artist, or a sculptor shaping the void itself. This isn't just about pretty pictures, it's about capturing the essence of the universe in a way that resonates deep within us. From the intricate celestial maps of the Middle Ages to the mind-bending digital art of today, creators have always sought to translate the cosmos into something tangible, something that speaks to both our curiosity and our emotions. Why does this matter? Because art has the power to make the incomprehensible feel personal, to turn distant stars into something we can almost reach out and touch. So, what happens when we merge the precision of science with the boundless freedom of artistic expression? That's the journey we're about to embark on. Together, we'll explore how visionaries across history have transformed cosmic mysteries into masterpieces, how they've taken the cold, mathematical beauty of the universe and infused it with color, texture, and soul. We'll unravel the stories behind these creations, revealing how they challenge our understanding of space, time, and even our place within it all. This isn't just a video, it's an invitation to see the cosmos through a new lens, one where black holes become brushstrokes and the infinite universe stretches across the canvas of human imagination. Ready to begin? Let's dive in. Long before telescopes pierced the night sky or equations unlocked the secrets of planetary motion, our ancestors were already artists of the cosmos. Picture this: 20,000 years ago, in the flickering torchlight of a cave, someone pressed their hand against rough stone and painted the first constellations. These weren't just random dots but stories etched in pigment, where the moon was a deity and comets were fiery messengers of the gods. Fast forward to ancient Mesopotamia, where star maps doubled as clay tablets whispering prophecies, or to Egypt, where the Milky Way stretched across tomb ceilings as a celestial river guiding pharaohs to the afterlife. Every culture wove the heavens into their art, not just as decoration, but as a language to speak the unspeakable. Then came the Greeks, who turned star clusters into epic dramas, Orion forever chasing the Pleiades, Hercules battling in the firmament. But it was the Renaissance that truly bridged the gap between art and science. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, hunched over his notebooks, sketching the moon's craters with the same precision he used for human veins, as if the cosmos and the body shared the same blueprint. Or Albrecht Dürer, whose celestial maps in 1516 didn't just chart stars, they framed the universe as a geometric masterpiece, where math and beauty danced together. This was more than decoration, it was a revolution. For the first time, artists weren't just illustrating myths, they were collaborating with astronomers, turning hypotheses into visuals that made the infinite feel intimate. What's fascinating is how these early works reveal a pattern: humanity's need to touch the cosmos, even when it's untouchable. Whether it was Polynesian navigators painting star paths on canoe sails or Persian astrolabes engraved with poetic verses, every culture used art to shrink the universe down to human scale. And that's the magic when a 15th century painter like Jan van Eyck hid planetary alignments in the background of a religious scene, or when Galileo's moon sketches in 1610 looked suspiciously like watercolor studies. They weren't just observing. They were conversing with the universe, one brushstroke at a time. This wasn't just art inspired by the cosmos, it was the cosmos inspiring us to reimagine our place within it. The shift from mythology to science didn't erase wonder, it deepened it. Suddenly, a comet wasn't just an omen. It was a celestial body with orbit and substance, yet still breathtaking when painted streaking across a church fresco. Artists became translators, turning Copernicus's radical idea that Earth wasn't the center of everything into vivid woodcuts that made the theory feel real. That's the legacy of these early cosmic creators. They taught us that the universe isn't just equations on a page, it's a story, and art is how we've always turned the pages. Albrecht Dürer's star charts weren't just maps, they were portals. Imagine holding one of those 1515 prints in your hands, the paper slightly rough under your fingertips, the ink still smelling faintly of the workshop. Here was the night sky not as a collection of random lights, but as a meticulously ordered tapestry, each constellation etched with the precision of a master engraver, yet alive with artistic flourish. Look closely and you'll see Orion's belt isn't just 3 dots, it's a warrior's sash flowing with motion. The Big Dipper isn't merely stars, it's a celestial chariot, wheels spinning through the void. Dürer didn't just document the cosmos, he gave it character, blending the rigor of early astronomy with the soul of a storyteller. And then there's Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, a masterpiece often celebrated for its human figures, but look upward, beyond Adam's outstretched finger, and you'll find a cosmos in motion. Those swirling backgrounds aren't just decorative clouds, they're cosmic storms, nebulae in the making. When Michelangelo painted God separating light from darkness, he didn't use a simple divide, he created a vortex, as if the universe itself was being spun into existence by divine hands. The ceiling becomes a mirror of the night sky, where biblical scenes unfold against a backdrop that feels less like a static heaven and more like a living, breathing universe. It's no accident that centuries later, astronomers would compare photos of distant galaxies to these very frescoes, as if Michelangelo had glimpsed something science was still struggling to name. What made these artists revolutionary wasn't just their skill, it was their intent. Dürer collaborated with astronomers, poring over star logs to ensure his charts were as accurate as the tools of his time allowed. Yet he never let science stifle wonder. His constellations aren't clinical diagrams, they're mythic figures caught mid-action, as if the sky was a grand stage. Similarly, Michelangelo's cosmology wasn't just religious doctrine, it was a visceral, almost tactile vision of infinity. When he painted the creation, he didn't just show God, he showed the energy of creation, the chaos and order intertwined. These works remind us that the universe isn't just something we observe, it's something we feel. The legacy of these Renaissance visionaries lingers in ways we might not expect. Modern astrophotographers often speak of their images as painting with light, echoing Dürer's marriage of precision and artistry. And when scientists today visualize black holes or quantum fields, they're grappling with the same challenge Michelangelo faced: how to make the invisible visible, how to translate the abstract into something that stirs the human heart. That's the alchemy of cosmic art. It takes the cold vastness of space and makes it resonate with our deepest fears, hopes, and curiosities. The Renaissance didn't just give us pretty pictures of the heavens, it gave us a language to dream beyond the stars. Galileo didn't just point his telescope at the heavens, he shattered the sky itself. In 1610, when he first documented the jagged surface of the moon and the moons of Jupiter dancing around their giant parent, he didn't just change science, he rewrote the way humanity saw the cosmos. No longer a perfect, unchanging vault of fixed stars, the universe became a place of motion, imperfection, and infinite possibility. And artists, those eternal translators of the unseen, seized this new vision with brushes and chisels, turning Galileo's cold observations into something that pulsed with life. Take Adam Elshemer's The Flight into Egypt, painted just a year after Galileo's discoveries. Here, moonlight doesn't just illuminate the scene, it behaves like real light, casting shadows through clouds, glinting off water, and revealing textures in the landscape with a precision that feels almost photographic. This wasn't artistic license, it was a direct response to Galileo's sketches of the moon's rough terrain. For the first time, painters weren't just imagining the heavens, they were rendering them, using light and shadow as tools to mirror the cosmos's newfound realism. But the revolution went deeper than technique. Galileo's revelations forced a reckoning with scale. When he proved the Milky Way was made of countless stars, not some celestial mist, the universe expanded overnight, and artists scrambled to capture that dizzying vastness. Look at the astronomical diagrams of the time, like those in Galileo's own Starry Messenger. The engravings aren't dry scientific records, they're dramatic. The moon's craters loom like mountains, Jupiter's moons are staged like actors in orbit, and the Pleiades sparkle with a density that makes you feel their distance. These images didn't just inform, they stunned, bridging the gap between data and wonder. Even the Church's condemnation of Galileo couldn't stop this shift. Baroque artists like Artemisia Gentileschi began framing biblical scenes against skies that felt alive, swirling with comets and nebulae, as if divinity itself now inhabited a dynamic, infinite stage. What's striking is how quickly art absorbed these shocks. Within decades, celestial imagery shed its medieval flatness. Dutch still lifes started featuring telescopes as symbols of human curiosity, while ceiling frescoes in palaces and churches exploded with telescopic details, meteors with fiery tails, Saturn's rings rendered with startling accuracy. Even in places where Galileo's books were banned, his influence leaked in through paint. In Spain, Diego Velázquez's The Spinners hides a subtle cosmic joke. The background tapestry mirrors the myth of Arachne, but the weavings border. A perfect replica of Galileo's sketches of sunspots smuggled into art as a quiet rebellion. This was more than aesthetics, it was a cultural tide turning. The real genius of this era was how art didn't just illustrate science, it interpreted it. When Galileo wrote that the moon's mountains cast shadows, artists like Elshemer didn't copy his notes, they felt those shadows. Their paintings became experiments in perception, asking, if light behaves differently in space, how does that change how we see everything? The answer was a new visual language, one where a single beam of moonlight could carry the weight of revelation, where a comet streaking past Bethlehem wasn't just decoration but a character in the story. Galileo gave artists permission to trust their eyes, and in return they gave his cosmos a heartbeat. By the time Newton split light with a prism a century later, the alliance was unbreakable. Science would reveal the universe's rules, but art would make them matter. If Galileo's era made the cosmos measurable, the Romantics made it felt. Picture Caspar David Friedrich's Wanderer above the sea of fog. That lone figure on a cliff, his back to us, staring into an abyss of swirling mist and distant peaks. Now replace the fog with stars, and you've captured the essence of Romanticism's cosmic awe. This wasn't just art, it was a primal scream into the void, a recognition that the universe could dwarf humanity while still leaving us breathless with its beauty. Friedrich's nightscapes, like two men contemplating the moon, aren't serene. They're charged with tension, the gnarled trees, the jagged rocks, the way the moonlight seems to pull at the figures, as if gravity itself couldn't compete with the sky's magnetism. Here, the sublime wasn't pretty, it was overwhelming, a reminder that the cosmos could crush us with its grandeur even as it lifted our souls. Then there's William Blake, who didn't just paint the heavens, he set them on fire. His Ancient of Days, that iconic image of a godlike figure crouched in a sunburst, compass in hand, isn't a celebration of divine order. It's chaos contained, a universe where creation and destruction spin in the same orbit. Blake's cosmos crackles with energy planets as eyes, stars as sparks from some celestial forge. Where scientists saw Newton's clockwork mechanics, Blake saw a universe of infinite depth and terror, as he once wrote. His illustrations for the Book of Job and the Divine Comedy turned nebulae into whirlpools of angels and demons, as if the Milky Way itself was a battleground for spiritual forces. This wasn't astronomy, it was alchemy transforming stardust into myth. What set the Romantics apart was their refusal to separate wonder from dread. When Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, a story literally sparked by conversations about galvanism and the spark of life, she framed Victor's obsession as a kind of cosmic overreach, a mortal daring to play with forces beyond human scale. Artists like John Martin took this further, painting apocalyptic visions like the great day of his wrath, where planets collide and mountains crumble under biblical fury. Even Beethoven, in his Moonlight Sonata, didn't just evoke a serene night, he channeled the moon's eerie tidal pull, the way it could stir madness as easily as romance. Yet for all their darkness, the Romantics also gave us something radical, permission to feel small. In Friedrich's The Monk by the Sea, that tiny figure on the shore isn't dwarfed by the ocean or sky to humiliate him, it's to elevate the act of witnessing. The painting asks, isn't there majesty in being the one creature who can look at infinity and shiver? This duality, terror and transcendence, rippled beyond canvas. Poets like Percy Shelley called the stars the brain of heaven, while Gogh's Faust sold his soul not for gold but for a glimpse of the forces that bind the universe. Science might map the stars, but art, to the Romantics, was how we mapped our response to them. The legacy modern astrophotography owes as much to Romanticism as to telescopes. When you see those Hubble images of nebulae gaseous tendrils glowing like something from Blake's sketchbook, you're seeing the sublime reborn. Even sci-fi cinema from 2001, A Space Odyssey Stargate to Interstellar's Black Hole, leans into Romanticism's playbook, space as both beautiful and brutal, a mirror for our deepest fears and wildest hopes. The Romantics didn't just paint the cosmos, they taught us to let it unravel us, then stitch us back together bigger, stranger, and hungrier for the unknown. Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night isn't just a painting, it's a cosmic storm captured in oil and desperation. Look closely at those swirling stars, how they pulse like living things, their light not static points but spiraling vortices of energy. The sky doesn't just hang there, it churns as if the entire universe is caught in some celestial turbulence. What's astonishing isn't just the beauty of it, but the eerie precision. Centuries before scientists could photograph the whirlpool structures of distant galaxies or model the fluid dynamics of interstellar gas, Van Gogh's brush seemed to feel them. Those thick, rhythmic strokes, the way the stars radiate in concentric waves, the moon glowing like a molten sun, don't just resemble later scientific diagrams of cosmic phenomena. They anticipate them. Was this a fluke, a happy accident of a tormented mind, or something deeper? Some scholars point to Van Gogh's letters, where he wrote of the night sky as a mysterious harmony, like the chords of a Beethoven symphony, suggesting he saw the cosmos not as static, but as vibrating with unseen forces. Others argue his brushwork mirrored his inner turmoil, the same restlessness that drove him to cut off his ear. But here's the twist. Modern fluid dynamicists have run simulations of turbulence, and when they compare Van Gogh's swirls to mathematical models of how energy moves through fluids, the patterns align almost uncannily. It's as if his psyche, unshackled by conventional perception, tapped into a universal language of motion. Yet Starry Night isn't just a scientific curiosity, it's a bridge between the personal and the infinite. Beneath that apocalyptic sky sits a quiet village, its church spire spearing upward as if trying to touch the chaos. The cypress tree writhes like a dark flame, rooted in earth but straining toward the stars. This isn't just a landscape, it's a dialogue. Van Gogh painted it from the window of his asylum at St. Remy, where the world outside was both refuge and prison. The cosmos he rendered isn't cold or distant, it's alive, intimate, almost breathing. That's the genius of the work. It collapses the vastness of space into something visceral, something that doesn't just hang on a wall but thrums against your skin. The painting's legacy ripples through modern cosmic art like a shockwave. Abstract expressionists like Jackson Pollock would later cite Van Gogh's energy, his refusal to let the sky be passive. Digital artists today manipulate Hubble telescope data into swirls of color that echo Starry Night's dynamism. Even NASA visualizations of solar flares and nebulas sometimes feel like homages to that 1889 masterpiece. Van Gogh proved the cosmos could be both scientifically profound and emotionally shattering, that a single brushstroke could carry the weight of a galaxy and the tremor of a human heartbeat. Perhaps that's why Starry Night endures. It's not a portrait of the universe as it is, but as it feels. When astronauts describe the overview effect, that transcendent awe of seeing Earth from space, they might as well be describing Van Gogh's vision, a reality where boundaries blur, where stars don't just shine but sing. Science gives us the equations, art gives us the goosebumps, and in that collision we find something rare. A painting that doesn't just hang in a museum, but rewires how we see the sky itself. Picasso's fractured guitars and Braque's splintered violins didn't just redefine art, they shattered how we saw the universe. When Cubism turned the world into jagged planes and overlapping angles in the early 1900s, it didn't stop at earthly objects. Artists began slicing the cosmos itself into geometric shards, as if the night sky were a puzzle waiting to be reassembled. Imagine a painting where the moon isn't a smooth orb but a cluster of crystalline facets, where stars aren't dots but intersecting triangles glowing like fractured glass. This wasn't just abstraction for its own sake, it was a radical new language for cosmic truth. If Einstein's relativity had just revealed that space and time were bendable, why should art cling to rigid perspective? Cubist space art became a visual echo of physics, a reminder that reality depends on where you stand. Then came Kazimir Malevich, who took this idea to its logical extreme. His Black Square in 1915 wasn't just a painting, it was a cosmic manifesto. That stark, black void on white canvas wasn't emptiness, it was potential, a gateway to dimensions beyond human sight. Malevich called it the zero of form, a reset button for art that mirrored the vast, uncharted expanse of space itself. His later works, like suprematist composition, white on white, pushed further, reducing the universe to pure energy, floating rectangles and tilted crosses that seemed to hover in infinite whiteness, like planets freed from gravity. For Malevich, the cosmos wasn't something to depict. It was a call to strip away everything familiar until only the sublime remained. This era's real rebellion was its refusal to be awed by scale. Where Romantic painters had trembled before the sublime, the avant-garde played with it. Russian constructivists like L. Lissitzky turned galaxies into dynamic grids of red and black. their sharp lines crackling with revolutionary energy. Meanwhile, futurists like Giacomo Balla painted stars as streaks of light, capturing not just their position but their motion, a celestial ballet seen through the lens of a speeding spaceship. These artists weren't illustrating theories, they were inventing new ways to think about space. When Malevich hung his black square in the top corner of the room where Russian icons traditionally resided, he wasn't just challenging art history. He was declaring the cosmos itself a sacred mystery, one that demanded not reverence but fearless reinvention. The legacy of this period hums through modern cosmic art like background radiation. Today's digital artists crafting fractal nebulae or VR designers building non-Euclidean worlds owe a debt to those early 20th century radicals. Even NASA visualizations of warped spacetime near black holes feel oddly cubist reality, bent into impossible angles. The avant-garde proved that to capture the universe, you sometimes have to break it first, reassembling the pieces into something that feels truer than fact. They didn't just paint the sky, they handed us a kaleidoscope, reminding us that infinity looks different every time you tilt your gaze. Salvador Dali didn't just paint dreams, he painted the cosmos as one. Those drooping clocks in the persistence of memory aren't merely symbols of time's fluidity. They're celestial bodies warped by some unseen gravity, as if Einstein's relativity had seeped into the artist's subconscious. And then there's the elephants, those spindly-legged creatures carrying obelisks on their backs like ancient satellites, a vision of space where mass and meaning dissolve into pure paradox. Dali's universe wasn't just surreal, it was scientific. He devoured papers on quantum theory and met with physicists, weaving their revelations into his work. When he painted Christ against a hypercube in Corpus Hypercubus, he wasn't just riffing on religion, he was grappling with the fourth dimension, turning sacred geometry into a portal to the infinite. Max Ernst took this further, slicing up star charts and botanical drawings to create collages like Europe After the Rain, where the sky isn't a canopy but a fractured mirror. His Forest and Dove series transforms nebulae into tangled thickets, as if the cosmos and the subconscious shared the same tangled roots. What's startling is how these works anticipated chaos theory, the idea that randomness hides underlying patterns. Ernst's frottage technique, rubbing pencil over textured surfaces to reveal hidden forms, eerily parallels how astronomers today map dark matter by tracing the invisible through its faintest imprints. This wasn't coincidence. The early 20th century had upended reality, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, Schrödinger's cat, the notion that particles could be in two places at once. Surrealism didn't ignore these upheavals, it embodied them. Take Yves Tanguay's barren landscapes littered with biomorphic shapes hovering like alien molecules. Or Remedio's Varro's celestial pablum, where clockwork nuns feed ground stars to the moon, a whimsical jab at how science and mysticism both hunger to explain the cosmos. These artists weren't illustrating theories, they were riffing with them, turning equations into visual jazz. The real magic lies in how surrealism's absurdity often clarified cosmic truths. When René Magritte painted a pipe labeled, "This is not a pipe," he wasn't just playing word games, he was echoing quantum physics' central dilemma. That observation alters reality. Here's the blank signature, where a horse and rider weave through trees in impossible slices, feels like a premonition of multiverse theory, a glimpse of parallel realities bleeding into ours. Even Dali's paranoid critical method, where he trained himself to hallucinate double images, mirrors how telescopes now use gravitational lensing to see the same star in multiple places. Surrealism's legacy hums in today's cosmic art like background radiation. Digital creators stitch together Hubble images into dreamlike composites, while sci-fi films like Arrival borrow surrealist visuals to depict alien languages as swirling Rorschach tests. The movement proved that to grasp the universe's weirdness, you sometimes have to out-weird it to let clocks melt, elephants float, and stars whisper secrets only the subconscious can decode. Science charts the cosmos's laws, but art reminds us that the universe's greatest mystery might be how it makes us feel like children staring into a kaleidoscope, dizzy with delight at shapes we'll never fully understand. The 1950s didn't just launch satellites into orbit, they blasted the cosmos straight into pop culture. Picture a teenager in 1957, glued to the radio as Sputnik's metallic beep crackles through the static, then stepping outside to see the night sky suddenly alive with possibility. That same year, Chesley Bonestell's painting Saturn as Seen from Titan landed on the cover of Life magazine, and with one brushstroke, space stopped being a scientist's abstraction and became a place. Bonestell's vision wasn't fantasy, it was geological. His craggy lunar cliffs and amber-hued Martian sunsets were so meticulously researched, they felt like postcards from a future already written. NASA would later use his work to sell the public on moon missions, turning his canvases into blueprints for national ambition. But here's the twist, those paintings weren't just propaganda. They were promises, rendering the unimaginable in textures so vivid, you could almost feel the grit of alien soil underfoot. Then came Andy Warhol, who took the space age's hype and turned it into a hall of mirrors. His 1964 Moonwalk series silkscreened, neon-drenched repetitions of Buzz Aldrin's iconic photo didn't celebrate the heroism of Apollo. It asked why we'd turned celestial exploration into a mass-produced commodity, as disposable as a soup can. Where Bonestell made planets feel real, Warhol made them feel familiar, another logo in humanity's relentless branding of the unknown. The contrast was delicious. Bonestell's hyper-detailed vistas whispered, "This is what's out there," while Warhol's garish moons sneered, "You've seen this before." Together, they captured the duality of the era, awe and irony, wonder and weariness, all orbiting the same cultural moment. But the real revelation was how space art became a battleground for competing visions of progress. Take Soviet artist Andrei Sokolov's stark, constructivist-inspired posters, where cosmonauts floated like socialist saints against geometric stars, or American pulp illustrators like Frank R. Paul, whose bug-eyed aliens and rocket ship jungles turned the cosmos into a playground for capitalist escapism. Even Disney got in on the act, hiring Bonestell to design Man in Space, a TV special that sold interplanetary travel as family entertainment. This wasn't just art reflecting science, it was art shaping it, turning equations into daydreams that would fuel real-world engineering. What's often overlooked is how these works grappled with scale. Bonestell's Mars and Beyond painting series didn't just show the red planet. It framed astronauts as specks against canyon walls miles high, a humbling reminder of our tininess. Yet Warhol's repetitive moons did the opposite, shrinking the infinite into something as reproducible as a Campbell's label. The tension between those perspectives, the sublime versus the synthetic, still echoes today. When Elon Musk tweets a meme about Mars colonization, or China releases lunar rover footage spliced with patriotic music, they're playing the same game Bonestell and Warhol pioneered, packaging the cosmos for public consumption. The space age's legacy isn't just in rockets or flags planted in regolith. It's in the way artists taught us to see the universe not just as a frontier, but as a mirror. Bonestell's landscapes asked if we were ready to become giants, striding across worlds we'd once only mythologized. Warhol's prints wondered if we'd already reduced the stars to just another product. 60 years later, as billionaires race to privatize orbit and AI generates galaxies with a keystroke, their questions feel less like history and more like prophecy. The cosmos hasn't changed, but the way we frame it, that's always been the real art. The 1960s didn't just send rockets into space, they launched the human mind into hyperspace. While engineers calculated trajectories to the moon, the counterculture was mapping a different kind of voyage, one where outer space and inner consciousness blurred into a single, swirling journey. Peter Max's Day Glow posters didn't just depict stars, they pulsated with them, those neon galaxies radiating like synapses firing in some cosmic brain. His Cosmic Runner, a silhouette sprinting through a vortex of rainbow planets, wasn't just a pop art icon, it was a manifesto. Here was space travel reimagined not as a Cold War race, but as a psychedelic pilgrimage, where every rocket was a vessel for enlightenment as much as exploration. Then there was Alex Gray, whose Sacred Mirrors series peeled back skin and bone to reveal the body as a constellation of energy, neurons branching like Milky Ways beneath the flesh. His Net of Being, a grid of interconnected faces floating in a celestial mandala, didn't just echo Hubble photos of galaxy clusters. It suggested that the universe's structure was a mirror of human neural networks. This wasn't mere aesthetics. Gray, who worked as a medical illustrator, grounded his visions in anatomy, making the spiritual literal. When he painted chakras as spinning quasars or auras as interstellar plasma, he was proposing something radical, that the cosmos wasn't just out there, it was woven into our very cells. What set this era apart was its refusal to separate science from mysticism. Timothy Leary famously called space the ultimate high, while Whole Earth catalog founder Stuart Brand campaigned to have NASA release the first photo of Earth from space, not as a scientific document, but as a talisman for planetary unity. Artists like Matty Clarwin took this further, painting Annunciation with a UFO beaming light onto a pregnant woman, fusing biblical awe with extraterrestrial contact. Even Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey, with its Stargate sequence and monoliths, played like a 2-hour meditation on cosmic consciousness, set to Strauss waltzes. The legacy: modern astrobiologists now study psychedelics to simulate alien consciousness, while festivals like Burning Man turn desert playas into surrealist space colonies. When Elon Musk tweets about consciousness as a cosmic phenomenon, he's channeling the same 60s ethos that turned planets into prayer beads. Those artists didn't just predict the future, they designed it, one trippy, transcendent brushstroke at a time. Stanley Kubrick didn't just make a movie with 2001, A Space Odyssey, he weaponized art to redefine how humanity saw the cosmos. That iconic opening sequence, where the sun, earth, and moon align to the thunder of Also Sprach Zarathustra, wasn't just a title card, it was a gauntlet thrown at science fiction's feet. No longer could space be a backdrop for rubber-suited aliens and laser duels. Kubrick demanded it feel real, from the sterile whirring of Discovery One's consoles to the silent horror of HAL's Crimson Eye. Every frame was a collaboration with NASA consultants and aerospace illustrators, turning speculative fiction into a chillingly plausible future. The result: a film so visually authoritative, astronauts later admitted it shaped their expectations of space before they ever left Earth's atmosphere. Then there's H.R. Giger, the Swiss surrealist who turned biology into a cosmic nightmare. His designs for Alien didn't just scare audiences, they violated our very sense of what life could be. The xenomorph's sleek, biomechanical form, its acid blood and nested jaws, weren't just movie monsters. They were blasphemies against Darwin, creatures that seemed to evolve from some dark corner of the universe where DNA followed rules we couldn't comprehend. Giger's Necronom Roman IV paintings, with their fusion of flesh and machine, didn't just inspire Ridley Scott, they echoed real scientific debates about silicon-based life and the possibility of extraterrestrial biology so alien we might not even recognize it as alive. Yet for every Giger, there was a Chris Foss, whose book covers for Dune and The Mote in God's Eye bathed the future in optimism. His vast, candy-colored starships, floating above planets ringed like geodes, turned space colonization into a psychedelic daydream. Where Giger saw horror, Foss saw potential, his designs bursting with Art Deco curves and sunburst engines, as if the cosmos was a playground waiting for humanity to paint it in neon. This duality, terror and wonder, rippled through sci-fi art. Mobius's Arzak sketches gave us deserts where winged creatures soared past floating pyramids, while Sid Mead's Blade Runner cityscapes turned dystopia into something achingly beautiful, a future where even decay glittered. What's fascinating is how these visions bled into reality. NASA engineers cite Star Trek's communicators as inspiration for flip phones, while SpaceX's sleek Falcon rockets owe as much to Mead's streamlined futurism as to Newton's laws. Sci-fi art didn't just predict tech, it directed it. When Kubrick showed flat-screen monitors in 1968, or when the Jetsons dreamed up video calls, they weren't just fantasizing, they were blueprints. Even Alien's Nostromo, with its grimy, lived-in corridors, reshaped real spacecraft design. Engineers now prioritize human factors, acknowledging that spacefaring tech must feel as intuitive as a trucker's rig. The real legacy of these artists isn't in galleries or box office records. It's in the way they taught us to think about space not as a void, but as a canvas. Giger's horrors remind us that the universe might not be made in our image. Foss's utopias whisper that we could remake it anyway, and Kubrick's cold, majestic silence. That's the sound of the cosmos itself, indifferent to our dreams but vast enough to hold them all. Sci-fi art doesn't just imagine futures, it terraforms our collective imagination, one frame, one brushstroke, one screaming xenomorph at a time. Before Hubble, space was an artist's guess, a blur of imagined nebulae and hand-sketched galaxies. Then came April 1990, when the Hubble Space Telescope's first clear images hit the public like a lightning strike. Suddenly, the Eagle Nebula's pillars of creation weren't just theoretical, they were there, towering columns of gas and dust so detailed, you could almost feel their texture. For cosmic artists, this wasn't just reference material, it was a revelation. Digital creators like David A. Hardy seized Hubble's data like alchemists handed a new element, blending its razor-sharp star clusters with landscapes that straddled the line between documentary and dream. His painting Mars as It Might Have Been didn't just imagine the red planet's ancient rivers. It draped them in Hubble's palette, with skies stained the same eerie blues and violets found in deep space nebulae. The result, a world that felt less like fantasy and more like a lost chapter from NASA's own archives. Then there was Lynette Cook, who turned exoplanet speculation into high art. Before Hubble, artists painted alien worlds as either desert wastelands or jungle planets ripped from pulp magazines. Cook changed the game, using Hubble's spectra, the chemical fingerprints of starlight filtering through distant atmospheres. She calculated what hues might dominate under alien suns. Her Gliese 581d wasn't just a pretty scene. It was a hypothesis, with skies rendered in sulfuric yellows or methane greens based on real telescopic data. This was more than accuracy. It was a new kind of storytelling where every brushstroke answered a scientific what if. What emerged from this collision of data and creativity was a movement some called scientific surrealism. Take the work of digital artist Eric Wernquist, whose Wanderers series used Hubble-grade topography maps of Mars and Europa to craft vistas so precise, they felt like vacation snaps from a future we hadn't lived yet. Or the Celestial Mountains series by Chinese illustrator Tianhua Mao, where Hubble's nebulae morphed into jagged peaks, as if the cosmos had its own Himalayas sculpted from stardust. These pieces didn't just borrow from science, they conversed with it, using artistic license to stretch facts without breaking them. Hubble's greatest gift might have been its imperfections. When early lens flaws forced engineers to invent corrective optics, the resulting images came with a haunting, almost painterly glow, a reminder that even our best tools filter reality through a human lens. Artists seized this duality. In Michael Benson's Beyond series, he stacked hundreds of Hubble exposures into panoramas where the Veil nebulous filaments resembled Van Gogh's brushwork, and Jupiter's storms swirled like Turner's tempests. The message was clear: the universe doesn't just obey physics, it performs it with a flair that rivals any masterpiece. Today, this legacy thrives in places Hubble never envisioned. Instagram astronomers like Judy Schmidt colorize raw telescope data into viral artworks, while video games like No Man's Sky algorithmically generate quintillions of planets using Hubble-inspired physics. Even children's science books now feature illustrations indistinguishable from the telescope's own portraits. Hubble didn't just show us the cosmos, it taught us to see it as both scientists and poets, where every pixel holds a story waiting to be painted. Olafur Eliasson didn't just install a fake sun in London's Tate Modern, he rewired how we experience awe. The Weather Project, his 2003 masterpiece, transformed the museum's cavernous turbine hall into an otherworldly twilight zone where visitors lay on their backs beneath a glowing orange disk. Its light refracted through mist until the boundaries between art and atmosphere dissolved. This wasn't a representation of the cosmos, it was an invocation, using nothing but monochromatic lamps, humidifiers, and mirrors to simulate the sublime weight of standing beneath a dying star. People spent hours there, not analyzing brushstrokes but breathing the installation, their shadows stretching across the ceiling like astronauts floating in zero gravity. Eliasson's genius was recognizing that cosmic wonder isn't about accuracy, it's about embodiment. Meanwhile, in Tokyo's TeamLab planets, visitors shed their shoes to wade through knee-deep water that ripples with constellations at every step. The Infinite Crystal Universe, their most famous piece, surrounds you with pulsating LED stars that shift colors in response to your movement. Step forward, and a supernova erupts at your feet. Raise your arms and comet trails swirl around your fingertips. Unlike traditional planetariums that insist on passive observation, TeamLab insists you become part of the celestial mechanics. Their installations use real-time algorithms, so no two experiences are identical, just as no two nebulas in the universe share the same structure. It's cosmic chaos theory rendered as participatory playground, where the line between viewer and viewed blurs into irrelevance. What unites these artists is their rejection of the telescope's tyranny. For centuries, humanity experienced space through lenses and screens distant, sterile, mediated by technology. Eliasson and TeamLab bypass that entirely, using elemental forces like light, water, and sound to trigger primal reactions. When you stand inside the Weather Project, your pupils contracting against that artificial sun, your skin prickling in the manufactured haze, you're not thinking about hydrogen fusion or solar radii. You're feeling the sun's presence in your bones, the same way Neolithic farmers did when they raised stone circles to greet the solstice. TeamLab's galaxies achieve something similar through interactivity. By making stars obey your touch, they collapse the psychological distance between human and cosmic scales. The social dimension is equally revolutionary, where Renaissance frescoes adorn churches for the elite, and Hubble's images require million-dollar telescopes to appreciate raw. These installations democratize cosmic access. Eliasson's sun was free to all, drawing over 2 million visitors, office workers eating lunch beneath its glow, children tracing shapes in the mist, elders sitting quietly as if tending some celestial hearth. Team Labs exhibits thrive on collective participation, strangers collaborating to ignite digital supernova, their laughter echoing across the starfield. This is cosmic art as communal ritual, replacing the lonely astronomer at her eyepiece with something profoundly tribal, yet beneath the spectacle lies rigorous science. Eliasson consulted meteorologists to perfect the weather project's artificial humidity cycles, while Team Labs programmers use real astrophysical data to govern their digital universe's behavior. Their works succeed because they're not metaphors, they're models, distilling complex phenomena into visceral encounters. When you watch Team Labs, stars bifurcate like mitosis under your shadow. You're glimpsing the fractal nature of galactic formation. When Eliasson's mirrored ceiling doubles the hall into an infinite void, you're confronting the unsettling truth that most of the universe is empty space. Perhaps that's why these installations resonate so deeply in our screen-saturated age. They offer what pixels cannot: the weight of wonder. No VR headset can replicate the prickling heat of Eliasson's sun on your cheeks. No app can mimic the shock of Team Labs' icy galaxy water soaking your jeans. In an era where astronauts tweet from orbit and Mars rovers stream 4K video, these artists remind us that the cosmos isn't just something to observe, it's something to inhabit, even if only for an afternoon in a museum. They've taken the universe out of the lecture hall and dropped it squarely in our hands, glowing, pulsing, and breathtakingly alive. Wangechi Mutu's collages don't just depict women, they launch them into the cosmos like deities riding supernova. The end of Eating Everything shows a celestial figure with hair like swirling dark matter, her body a constellation of machine parts and organic tendrils, floating in a void that feels ancestral and futuristic at once. This isn't escapism, it's reclamation. Mutu's work tears open the colonial myth that space is a blank slate for Western conquest, instead casting it as a realm where African cosmologies and diaspora memories orbit freely. Her figures aren't astronauts in sterile suits, they're shamans draped in stardust, their very presence rewriting who gets to belong in the universe's story. Jean Michel Basquiat's untitled History of the Black People does something equally radical with just a few jagged lines. Between his trademark crowns and skeletal grids, he scrawls moon and atom alongside Congolese warrior masks and slave ships, collapsing time and space into a single defiant narrative. The painting's central figure, a black astronaut, isn't just a sci-fi trope. He's an archaeologist of the future, digging up constellations that colonial astronomy tried to bury. Basquiat's genius was in showing how the cosmos has always been present in black art, from the Dogon people's ancient Sirius lore to Sun Ra's interstellar jazz. His canvases scream what textbooks omit: that space was never neutral territory. Afrofuturism's power lies in its refusal to accept the default. When Octavia Butler wrote about black colonists fleeing Earth's oppression in Parable of the Sower, or when musician Shabaka Hutchings scores albums with cosmic free jazz, they're doing more than dreaming, they're correcting history's blind spots. Visual artists like Kerry James Marshall take this further, painting astronauts not as novelties but as inevitabilities, their gold spacesuits echoing Mali's medieval emperors. Even the Black Panther film's Wakandan space program isn't just CGI spectacle. It's a visual manifesto declaring that technological prowess wasn't born in Silicon Valley. It was forged in the great Zimbabwe's observatories and Timbuktu's libraries long before. This movement's boldest proposition, that the future isn't something we passively inherit, it's something we shape from the shards of stolen pasts, Ethiopian artist Julie Meritu's abstract explosions resemble both galactic collisions and archival maps of the Middle Passage, suggesting that black survival itself is a kind of interstellar travel. Meanwhile, filmmaker John Akomfra's The Last Angel of History positions blues music as an encrypted message from the future, a cosmic Morse code humming across light years. These creators aren't just adding diversity to space art, they're proving that the universe's true scale only becomes visible when viewed through lenses polished by resilience. The irony is delicious. While colonial empires once mapped the stars to claim dominion, Afrofuturism reveals those same stars as witnesses to resistance. When Nigerian-British artist Yinka Shonibare sculpts Victorian figures with rocket packs made from Dutch wax fabric, a textile born of colonial trade routes turned African cultural emblem, he's not just mocking empire. He's showing how the tools of oppression can become vessels of liberation, their trajectories arcing toward futures where blackness isn't marginal but gravitational. The cosmos in these works isn't a frontier to conquer. It's a chorus singing in tongues that colonization tried to silence. Kay Walking Stick's two-world paintings don't just depict landscapes, they dissolve the boundary between earth and sky, stitching Cherokee star lore into every brushstroke. In her Nightfire series, the Milky Way isn't a distant smear of light but a river of ancestral voices, its currents weaving through mountain ridges like threads in a cosmic loom. Walking Stick's genius lies in her refusal to separate indigenous cosmology from modernist abstraction. When she overlays geometric constellations onto abstract terrain, she's not illustrating myths, she's reactivating them, proving that native star knowledge isn't folklore but a living, breathing science of connection. Half a world away, Maori navigator artists carve celestial maps into whalebone and wood, their spirals and curves encoding centuries of wayfinding wisdom. These Wakero Rakau wood carvings aren't decorative, they're navigational algorithms. A single twist in the pattern might represent the rising of Matariki the Pleiades, signaling the Maori New Year, while notches along the edge track the moon's phases for ocean voyages. Western museums often display these works as artifacts, but in Maori hands, they're still used to teach children how to read the sky as their ancestors did, not as a grid of coordinates, but as a storybook where every star is a character. Then there's the Navajo tradition of star quilts, vibrant textiles where constellations emerge from symmetrical bursts of color. Unlike European star charts that fix stars in static positions, these quilts pulse with motion, capturing the Dene belief that the heavens are alive and relational. A diamond pattern might represent the four sacred directions, while a central octagon mirrors the Hogan's roof hole, framing the North Star as a spiritual pivot. When quilters like Gloria Begay stitch the Milky Way as a shimmering path across black wool, they're preserving knowledge that predates telescopes, that the cosmos isn't just observed but lived. What unites these traditions is their insistence on reciprocity. Western astronomy often treats the sky as something to conquer, a void to be measured and mined. But for the Lakota, the morning star isn't just an object, it's falling star, a celestial relative who sacrificed herself to bring wisdom to humans. Australian Aboriginal dot paintings of the emu in the sky don't just map dark nebulae, they encode seasonal cycles tied to the creature's celestial posture. These artists remind us that every culture has its own Hubble telescope, not of glass and metal, but of memory and metaphor. The tragedy is how much has been erased. When colonizers banned indigenous languages, they didn't just silence people, they severed entire cosmologies. A single lost star story might have held clues to supernova events or climate patterns, like the Inuit oral histories that accurately describe coastal shifts from centuries ago. Contemporary artists like Nicholas Galinan Tlingit/Unangax fight this erasure with installations like Never Forget, where neon constellations spell Indian land in a parody of Hollywood signage, reclaiming the sky as sovereign territory. Yet resilience shines brightest in revival. Hawaiian copper cloth makers now dye bark fabric with star patterns using traditional plant pigments, while Samoan tattooists ink navigational charts onto skin as living archives. Even NASA has begun consulting with Pueblo elders about Mars missions, recognizing that indigenous knowledge of arid landscapes might hold keys to extraterrestrial exploration. This isn't nostalgia, it's the universe coming full circle. When Maori artist George Nuku sculpts the god Tane from acrylic and stardust resin, or when Cree painter Jason Carter carves Orion's belt into birch bark as three hunters chasing a celestial bear, they're doing more than making art. They're proving that the cosmos speaks in as many tongues as there are cultures to listen. These works challenge us to see astronomy not as a single story, but as a constellation of truth, each culture holding a piece of the sky's infinite puzzle. After all, what's a galaxy but another kind of quilt, stitched together from the light of a billion suns, each one whispering a different story to those who know how to hear. Vija Selmans didn't just paint stars, she captured the silence between them. Her graphite drawings, like night sky, are so meticulously rendered that you can almost hear the hush of deep space, each pinpoint of light laboriously stippled into existence. In the 1960s, when cosmic art was dominated by men painting rocket ships and machinist fantasies, Selmans offered something radical: stillness. Her work didn't shout about conquest or heroism. It whispered about scale and time, forcing viewers to confront the universe's indifference. A single scratch in her graphite cosmos could be a meteor streak or a flaw in the paper, a reminder that human marks are fleeting against the cosmic backdrop. Selman's genius was in making the infinite feel intimate. Her handcrafted precision, a quiet rebellion against the era's bombastic space race narratives. Then there's Yayoi Kusama, who turned infinity into a room you could step inside. Her infinity mirror rooms aren't just installations, they're psychological wormholes. Step into the souls of millions of light years away, and suddenly you're adrift in a galaxy of LED stars, your reflection multiplied into eternity by mirrored walls. Kusama's hallucinations, which she's lived with since childhood, became the raw material for these works, her way of externalizing the cosmic vastness that haunted her. Unlike traditional planetariums that simulate space from a distance, Kusama's rooms make you the celestial body, your presence warping the universe around you. It's no accident that her polka-dotted pumpkins and obsessively patterned sculptures echo the fractals of nature, from neuron clusters to galaxy spirals. Kusama didn't just depict the cosmos, she proved it lives inside us, pulsing behind our eyelids. Agnes Deans went further, questioning whether humanity deserved the stars at all. Her Pyramid to Mars, a proposed mile-high structure meant to be visible from space, wasn't a celebratory monument but a provocation. Built from obsolete technology like discarded computers, it would stand as both a beacon and a tombstone, asking, do we expand into the universe to evolve or to export Earth's waste? Deans's wheat field, a confrontation where she planted golden grain in Manhattan's landfill, already challenged our priorities. Pyramid to Mars scaled that critique to interplanetary levels. Her work exposes the hypocrisy of cosmic ambition, how we dream of pristine Martian colonies while suffocating our own planet. These artists didn't just add feminine perspectives to space art, they exploded its very definitions. Selmans traded heroic narratives for meditative awe. Kusama swapped cold astronomy for embodied psychedelia, and Deans replaced colonial fantasies with hard questions. Their legacies ripple through contemporary creators like Lita Albuquerque, whose Stellar Axis project placed blue spheres in Antarctica to mirror constellations, or Jennifer Steinkamp's digital forests where trees sway to data from solar flares. Even Toy and Oji Ojutola's celestial bodies drawings reimagined black figures as interstellar royalty, their skin mapped like nebulas. The lesson: the cosmos isn't just a canvas for male pioneers or government agencies. It's a mirror reflecting back whoever dares to look, whether through a telescope, a graphite smudge, or the flicker of an LED star. These women didn't ask permission to redefine space. They handed us new eyes and said, "Look again." Tomas Sarasno's floating orbs don't just drift on the wind, they carry the weight of the Anthropocene. His Eocene sculptures, gossamer thin spheres that soar without fossil fuels or helium, are more than art. They're prototypes for a world untethered from extraction. Picture one of these ethereal globes lifting into the sky, its surface catching sunlight like a soap bubble, and suddenly, the absurdity of our climate crisis sharpens into focus. Here's a vessel that moves in harmony with atmospheric currents, while back on Earth, we're still ripping carbon from the ground to power machines that choke the very air it rides. Sarasno's genius lies in his refusal to separate Earth's struggles from cosmic context. By staging his launches in deserts or salt flats landscapes that echo Martian terrain, he frames climate action not as provincial activism, but as a test of whether humanity deserves to evolve beyond this pale blue dot. The Eocene project's most subversive trick: it hijacks the language of space exploration to expose its contradictions. When billionaires race to colonize Mars while Earth burns, Sarasno offers a counter-narrative. His sculptures float using nothing but solar heat and air, proving that clean technology already exists. We've just chosen not to see it. A 2015 performance in New Mexico saw his orb travel over 200 miles emissions-free, its path tracing an invisible thread between ancient ballooning traditions and speculative futures. This isn't escapism, it's a rehearsal. By making the invisible forces of thermodynamics visible, those shimmering heat gradients lifting the sculpture like a cosmic breath, Sarasno turns physics into poetry and poetry into a manifesto. Other artists amplify this cosmic environmental chorus in startling ways. Ryoji Ikuta's date-averse installations bombard viewers with projections of particle collisions and DNA sequences, remixing climate data into strobe-lit symphonies that feel less like lectures and more like transmissions from a dying planet's distress beacon. Then there's Pamela Rosenkrantz's Our Sun, a neon orb whose sickly pink glow mirrors UV radiation levels post-ozone depletion, turning gallery spaces into chambers where you don't just see climate change, you bathe in its eerie light. These works share Sarasno's conviction that environmental art must scale up not just in size but in imagination. A melting glacier isn't just a local tragedy. It's a tremor in the universe's delicate balance of solids and liquids, a process that shaped Mars' canyons and Europa's ice shelves long before it threatened Miami. What unites these artists is their knack for telescoping perspective. By framing Earth as one world among countless others, they dissolve the fiction that ecological collapse is someone else's problem. In Cloud Cities, Sarasno suspends modular habitats in midair, suggesting that survival might require learning from spiderwebs and cloud formations architectures honed by cosmic forces over millennia. It's no accident that NASA scientists consult his work. His vision of atmospheric living borrows as much from astrophysics as from indigenous basket weaving techniques. This synthesis of ancestral wisdom and interstellar thinking hints at a radical truth. Saving Earth might require thinking like aliens observers who see our planet not as a resource locker, but as a rare, shimmering node in the great web of cosmic chemistry. The ultimate provocation of these works, they remind us that climate change isn't just about degrees Celsius or carbon ppm, it's a failure of vision. When we stare at Sarasno's orbs dancing in thermal winds, or Icta's data storms flickering like dying stars, we're confronting a simple question. Does a species that can picture galaxies and dark matter really lack the creativity to reinvent its relationship with a single rocky world? The cosmos doesn't care if we answer wrong, but art like this equal parts dirge and lullaby keeps the question hanging in the air, lighter than a soap bubble, heavier than a planet. Horrific Anadol's machine Hallucinations doesn't just depict space, it dreams it into existence. His swirling, data-fed nebulae, generated by algorithms trained on millions of celestial images, pulse with an eerie vitality, as if the AI has internalized the universe's rhythm. But here's the twist, these aren't random outputs. Anadol's machines digest real telescope data, magnetic field readings, gamma-ray bursts, gravitational wave patterns, and translate them into visuals that feel less like renderings and more like cosmic weather reports. When his installations flood entire buildings with morphing galaxies, you're not just seeing art, you're witnessing a dialogue between silicon and stardust, where the algorithm becomes a medium channeling the universe's own chaos. Then there's Mario Klingemann, whose neural networks birth galaxies that never existed yet feel hauntingly familiar. His Memories of Passers-by series generates endless portraits of imaginary beings, but apply that same AI to cosmic themes, and the results are staggering nebulae that evolve like living organisms, star clusters that rearrange themselves according to mathematical harmonies even Bach couldn't compose. Klingemann's machines don't just mimic Hubble's images, they riff on them, improvising like jazz musicians handed sheet music written by black holes. The question isn't whether these creations are art, but whether they're closer to hallucinations or prophecies. After all, if an AI trained on centuries of human depictions of the cosmos suddenly dreams up a nebula shaped like a double helix, is it copying or discovering? This explosion of generative space art forces a reckoning with the sublime. For centuries, artists like Turner or Rothko sought to evoke the overwhelming awe of the infinite. Now machines spit out comparable vistas in seconds, but does an AI feel the vertigo of the void when it paints a black hole, or is it merely shuffling pixels according to human-fed biases? Artist Saogwon Chung's collaborations with robotic arms offer a clue. Her Omnia per Omnia project sees AI and brush-wielding robots co-create swirling universes in real time, their strokes sometimes harmonious, other times combative. The tension is palpable, the machine's precision versus the human's intuition, each correcting, challenging, and occasionally surpassing the other. Here, AI isn't replacing the artist, it's becoming a frenemy, pushing creativity into uncharted orbits. Yet the most provocative works weaponize AI's limitations. Artist and programmer Helena Sarin trains her algorithms on botanical sketches and medieval manuscripts, then asks them to render planets. The results are gloriously wrong gas giants sprouting vines, craters blooming into rococo filigree. These mistakes reveal something profound, that every AI's cosmos is a funhouse mirror, reflecting not just data but the cultural debris we've fed it. When an image generator interprets Alien Sunset as a purple beach scene ripped from a 1950s postcard, it exposes how even our machines can't escape human imagination's event horizon. The ethical nebula around this art is just as dense. Who owns an AI-generated constellation? The programmer who built the model, the astronomers whose data trained it, or the machine itself? Projects like the Library of Babel by Simon de Diesbach explore this by letting users copyright procedurally generated stars, highlighting the absurdity of claiming cosmic real estate. Meanwhile, artists like Stephanie Dinkins create chatbots trained on oral histories from Black elders, then set them adrift in VR galaxies, asking whether AI can ever encode marginalized cosmologies without flattening them. Perhaps the answer lies in collaboration, not competition. NASA Frontier Development Lab already uses generative AI to simulate asteroid impacts or exoplanet atmospheres, treating algorithms as partners in cosmic detective work. Similarly, artist Julie Freeman's The Lake translates ecological data into generative star fields, where each twinkling light represents a fish's movement in a real lake, a reminder that the universe's patterns echo in the smallest scales. AI isn't eclipsing human artistry, it's giving us new telescopes to peer deeper into the chaos. The brush hasn't disappeared, it's just been upgraded to a particle accelerator. Eliza McNitt's VR experience Fathom doesn't just show you a supernova, it lets you wear one. Slip on a headset, and suddenly you're floating inside a dying star, your virtual hands brushing against plasma tendrils as shockwaves ripple through your body in haptic feedback. This isn't passive viewing, it's cosmic embodiment where the line between observer and event dissolves into pure sensation. McNitt collaborated with astrophysicists to map real stellar collapse data onto her virtual space, so those radiant filaments aren't just pretty effects, they're accurate visualizations of shock fronts and neutrino bursts. The result, a supernova, doesn't feel like a distant fireworks display. It's a visceral unraveling, a front-row seat to the universe's most violent rebirth. What makes VR so revolutionary is its ability to hijack our sense of scale. In Spacewalk, users don a headset and suddenly find themselves standing on TRAPPIST-1e, an exoplanet 40 light-years away. The ground beneath your feet isn't static. It shudders with seismic activity as twin suns cast overlapping shadows across jagged basalt formations. Tilt your head upward, and the sky isn't a flat dome but a volumetric tapestry. Swirling gas giants loom so close, you instinctively reach out to touch them. Developers at Felix and Paul Studios didn't just guess these details. They worked with planetary scientists to simulate atmospheric scattering and tidal forces accurately. The magic lies in their sleight of hand, using real physics to make the impossible feel inevitable. This tech isn't just for entertainment. NASA's Mars 2030 VR simulation trains astronauts by dropping them into a photorealistic red planet, where they practice extracting water from regolith or repairing habitats during dust storms. But artists like McNitt take it further, blending hard science with emotional narrative. In The Collider, she guides users through CERN Particle Accelerator, not as a sterile lab tour, but as a mythic journey where subatomic collisions bloom into kaleidoscopic mandalas. The science is precise. Each visualized quark interaction mirrors actual detector data, but the experience is pure poetry. It's as if Marie Curie and William Blake teamed up to design a video game. The democratizing power of VR cosmic art can't be overstated. Traditional astronomy requires expensive telescopes or graduate-level math to grasp phenomena like space-time curvature. But in Universe Sandbox VR, anyone can grab two black holes with motion controllers and slam them together, watching gravitational waves distort the virtual room around them. Educator Dario Villa uses this in classrooms, where middle schoolers scream with delight as they paint asteroid belts into orbit around homemade planets. The headset becomes a wormhole, teleporting users past socioeconomic barriers into realms once reserved for PhDs and astronauts. Yet the medium's true innovation might be its capacity for shared awe. Multiplayer experiences like Big Screen Beta let groups gather in virtual planetariums, watching real-time feeds from the James Webb Space Telescope while floating together in zero-G chat rooms. Japanese artist Ryoichi Kurokawa's Sin takes it further. His live performances stream astrophysical simulations to hundreds of synchronized headsets, creating a collective gasp as supernova detonate in perfect unison across the audience. In an age where isolation grips modern life, VR cosmic art becomes a campfire for the digital age, reminding us that wonder tastes sweeter when passed hand to hand. The irony is delicious. While VR often gets dismissed as escapism, these experiences ground us more firmly in cosmic reality. Stumbling through McNitt's supernova or Kurokawa's galaxy collisions doesn't shrink the universe, it expands our emotional vocabulary for grappling with it. After all, humanity didn't evolve to intuit light years or quantum foam, but strap on a headset and suddenly your lizard brain gets it, not through equations, but through the gut punch of standing on an alien world, watching three moons eclipse each other and realizing with a shiver, this isn't sci-fi. It's just science waiting for us to catch up. Suze, an anchor, doesn't just study life, she cultivates universes in miniature. In her Bacterial Galaxy series, streaks of vibrant microbes spiral across Petri dishes like newborn solar systems, their growth patterns echoing the gravitational dances of distant stars. These living artworks aren't metaphors, they're experiments. By exposing bacteria to antibiotics in precise gradients, Anchor coaxes colonies into forming fractal branches and radiant halo structures eerily similar to Hubble's images of nebulas and star clusters. The implication is staggering that the same mathematical rhythms governing galactic arms might also shape the expansion of a single cell. It's as if her agar plates are windows into a hidden truth that life, at its core, is a cosmic phenomenon, bound by universal laws we're only beginning to decipher. This fusion of Petri dish and planetarium raises profound questions. What if the branching veins of a leaf aren't just biological adaptations but echoes of the universe's filamentary structure? Or that the double helix of DNA mirrors the spiral arms of the Milky Way? Artists like Anchor team with astrobiologists to test these poetic parallels in startling ways. In astroculture, she germinates seeds under colored LED lights, mimicking exoplanet sunsets, asking whether extraterrestrial flora might follow the same photosynthetic rules as Earth's greenery. Meanwhile, Brazilian artist Eduardo Cac encodes a stanza of poetry into synthetic DNA, then inserts it into living bacteria, creating organisms that literally carry star-like information in their genetic core. These works blur the line between lab and observatory, suggesting that biology labs might be the best places to search for alien design principles. The crossover goes deeper than aesthetics. When microbiologists peer into Anchor's bacterial galaxies, they spot something uncanny, the same self-organizing patterns seen in simulations of early planetary formation. Physicists call this universal scaling, the way complex systems, from cells to storms to galaxies, often converge on similar shapes despite vast differences in scale. Japanese artist and scientist Ryoji Ikeda visualizes this principle in Micro-Macro, where a single projection simultaneously depicts subatomic particle collisions and galactic superclusters, their branching structures nearly identical. The effect is humbling, collapsing eons and light years into a single, shimmering continuum. Perhaps the most radical implication of bioart lies in its challenge to our search for extraterrestrial life. NASA Viking landers scooped Martian soil in 1976, looking for Earth-like metabolism, an approach now considered anthropocentric. Contemporary astrobiologists, inspired by artists like Anchor, now ask, What if alien life doesn't flourish under our microscopes but follows entirely unfamiliar chemistries? Projects like the Living Universe at MIT grow synthetic organisms with arsenic-based DNA in vitrines shaped like Saturn's rings, while Austrian collective Hacteria crafts xenobiology kits for DIY enthusiasts to engineer speculative life forms in their kitchens. These playful experiments aren't just art, they're stress tests for our definitions of life itself. The ultimate power of bioart might be its ability to make the cosmic tangible. We can't touch a nebula or taste a comet's ice, but we can watch Serratia Marcescens bloom into crimson constellations under Anchor's careful hand. We can't witness the birth of a star, but we can see Physarum polycephalum, a brainless slime mold, solve labyrinth puzzles by spreading tendrils identical to dark matter maps of the universe. These living artworks don't just reflect the heavens, they embody them, whispering that the same forces arranging stars into galaxies might pulse through our own capillaries. In the end, bioart's message is simple yet sublime. To understand the universe, we need only study the life teeming beneath our fingertips and recognize it as stardust dreaming aloud. Laurie Spiegel's music of the spheres doesn't just mimic the cosmos, it channels its pulse. In 1977, armed with one of the first computer music systems, she composed Kepler's Harmony of the Worlds, transforming the astronomer's celestial math into shimmering arpeggios. Spiegel didn't approximate planetary motion with melodies. She encoded orbital periods into algorithmic loops, so Jupiter's 12-year cycle became a bass note so deep you feel it in your ribs, while Mercury's frantic 88-day-year skitters like glass beads on a drumhead. The result isn't just music, it's a sonic telescope revealing rhythms too vast for human perception. When Voyager's golden record carried her work into interstellar space, it wasn't just a cultural artifact, it was a message in a bottle, proving that the universe's language isn't just equations. It's vibration. NASA's sonification projects take this further, turning raw cosmic data into auditory experiences that bypass the eyes entirely. Imagine donning headphones and hearing the pillars of creation, not as an image, but as a cascading chord progression where each gas filament sings at a pitch determined by its density. The Chandra X-ray Center's black hole soundscapes are even more unsettling. Data from Perseus's supermassive black hole, originally recorded as pressure waves rippling through galactic gas, gets transposed 57 octaves up into human hearing range. What emerges isn't the sci-fi whoosh of movie soundtracks, but a primordial drone oscillating between menace and melancholy. Scientists initially dismissed these waves as noise until artists revealed their haunting musicality, a reminder that discovery often begins with listening differently. The magic lies in how these translations expose hidden patterns. When composer Diego Stocco mapped Saturn's ring vibrations to a gamelan orchestra, the resulting metallic shimmer mirrored the ice particles' collision frequencies. Similarly, University of Toronto's Astrosonic project sonified light from distant stars, assigning spectral lines to specific instruments. A hydrogen alpha emission might trigger a violin's sustained note, while ionized calcium cues a timpani roll. Played together, these stellar symphonies reveal something startling. Young, turbulent stars sound like free jazz, all skronking saxophones and clattering percussion, while ancient suns emit slow, resonant tones closer to Gregorian chant. It's as if stars have life cycles we can hear before we fully understand them. Yet the most profound works blur the line between art and tool. When data sonification helped a blind astronomer see galaxy cluster collisions through spatialized audio, it proved these projects aren't just aesthetic exercises, they're cognitive bridges. The SETI Institute's Earthling project pushes this further. embedding spoken word poems and indigenous chants into radio signals aimed at exoplanets. Here, music becomes both cipher and handshake, compressing human experience into waveforms that might resonate with civilizations shaped by entirely different senses. From Spiegel's algorithms to the European Space Agency's sonification of Gaia's star maps where the Milky Way becomes a celestial gamelan, these works share a radical premise that the universe isn't silent. It's been singing since the first quark-gluon plasma cooled into atoms. Our mistake was assuming it spoke only in light. Now, as composers duct tape violins to drones to capture aural infrasound or translate neutrino oscillations into dubstep drops, we're finally tuning into the full spectrum. The cosmos isn't a void, it's a choir, and every black hole, pulsar, and exoplanet holds its note in the grand fugue of space-time. Julius von Bismarck's psychoacoustic mirror doesn't just reflect light, it fractures reality. Picture a towering, rotating disk covered in thousands of mirrors, each sliver angled to catch and distort the world around it. As it spins, the installation doesn't just scatter reflections, it creates a shimmering vortex where a single face might splinter into dozens of spectral copies, each flickering in and out of existence like particles in a quantum superposition. Von Bismarck's work doesn't illustrate quantum theory. It enacts it, turning Heisenberg's uncertainty principle into a visceral, dizzying spectacle. One moment, you're staring at your own reflection. The next, it's gone, replaced by a fragmented mosaic of possibilities, as if you're glimpsing parallel versions of yourself in a multiverse of mirrors. This obsession with quantum weirdness isn't confined to galleries. Take the collective Random International, whose rain room lets visitors walk through a downpour without getting wet. Motion sensors trigger pauses in the falling water, creating the illusion of controlling chaos. It's a playful nod to the observer effect, where simply measuring a quantum system alters its behavior. Or consider Ryoji Ikuta's superposition, a strobe-lit labyrinth where light pulses at frequencies tuned to quantum fluctuations, making the air itself seem to vibrate with invisible particles. These artists aren't just borrowing scientific jargon, they're building bridges between the abstract math of quarks and the gut-level thrill of stepping into an impossible space. What makes quantum aesthetics so electrifying is how they flip the cosmic perspective upside down. For centuries, art focused on the vastness of stars and galaxies, the macrocosm. Now, creators like von Bismarck zoom inward, finding just as much wonder in the probabilistic dance of electrons. His Punishment of the Mirrors series takes this literally. Cannons fire paintballs at mirrored surfaces, leaving splatter patterns determined by quantum randomized algorithms. The resulting cracks aren't chaotic, they're calculated, echoing the paradoxical order within chaos of subatomic behavior. It's as if Jackson Pollock collaborated with Schrödinger's cat. Yet the real magic lies in how these works democratize quantum strangeness. You don't need a physics degree to feel the eerie resonance of Raphael Lozano Hemmer's pulse spiral, where participants' heartbeats control a galaxy of LEDs, each pulse collapsing the system from potential to actual, a living metaphor for wave function collapse. Or the way TeamLab's Crystal Universe surrounds visitors with points of light that shift from particle-like dots to wave-like streams based on their movement, embodying Bower's complementarity principle. These installations don't dumb down the science, they embody it, letting your body grasp concepts your brain might struggle to parse. The irony is delicious. Quantum physics, once dismissed as too counterintuitive for public consumption, now fuels some of the most immersive art of our time. When von Bismarck suspends a chandelier made of shattered glass that reforms only when unobserved, a nod to quantum Zeno effects, he's not just crafting a metaphor. He's proving that art can be a laboratory for the senses, where the universe's deepest paradoxes aren't problems to solve, but wonders to inhabit. The subatomic isn't hidden anymore. It's vibrating in the gallery air, waiting to entangle with your perception. Eduardo Cobra's towering mural of Einstein in Rio de Janeiro doesn't just honor a genius, it catapults the cosmos onto city streets. With its prismatic streaks of neon pink and electric blue, the portrait fractures into 1,000 shards, each reflecting not just the physicist's face, but the very fabric of spacetime he helped unravel. This isn't a passive homage, it's a collision of science and spectacle, turning a drab concrete wall into a portal where relativity meets rave culture. Cobra's signature kaleidoscopic style does something radical. It democratizes cosmic awe. No ticket required, no gallery hours, just an ordinary sidewalk suddenly crackling with the energy of a supernova. Spanish artist Ocuda San Miguel takes this further, splashing entire neighborhoods with geometric constellations. His polychrome facades in cities like Lisbon or Detroit transform buildings into cosmic totems, where triangles and starbursts collide in a visual Big Bang. One of his most famous works, The Rainbow Thief, drapes a crumbling industrial skeleton in interlocking planets and astral patterns, as if the universe itself is reclaiming urban decay. What's revolutionary here isn't just the scale, it's the subversion. Traditional space art often lives in hushed museums or elite observatories, but Okuda's murals scream from fire escapes and subway tunnels, insisting the cosmos belongs to everyone, especially those too busy surviving to stargaze. Then there's Faith, Roman 47, whose haunting Lacrimosa series in Johannesburg paints weeping celestial bodies onto abandoned warehouses. Her nebulae drip like tears down rain-streaked walls, merging cosmic grandeur with raw human grief. Unlike sanitized Hubble images, her work is tactile and transient, subject to weather, graffiti, and time. A fading supernova mural next to a pawn shop isn't just art, it's a memento mori for both stars and struggling neighborhoods. Street artists wield the cosmos as both muse and protest tool. In Beirut, Yazan Halwani's mural of astronaut Ibn al-Haytham, the medieval Arab scientist who pioneered optics, looms over a city scarred by explosions. The astronaut's visor reflects not stars, but the shattered streets below, binding space exploration to earthly resilience. Meanwhile, in Melbourne, Adnate's Indigenous elders painted against starfields reclaim the night sky as Aboriginal storytelling canvas, resisting colonial narratives that treat space as a new frontier rather than an ancient cultural map. The magic of cosmic street art lies in its impermanence. A Banksy stencil of a girl launching a heart-shaped nebula might vanish under bureaucracy's gray paint tomorrow, but that's the point. It mirrors the universe's own fleeting beauty. These artists don't just depict the cosmos, they replicate its logic, boundless, democratic, and defiantly untamed. A kid tagging a rocket ship on a dumpster, or a grandmother crossing the street under Cobra's rainbow Einstein, they're all part of the same celestial dance, no telescope required. Cities become open-air planetariums not through polished domes, but through cracked sidewalks and railway underpasses where the universe whispers, "Look up." Or better yet, look around. There's something primal about pressing stardust into skin, about etching the cosmos onto the very canvas that carries us through life. Celestial tattoos aren't just decoration, they're intimate mythologies, turning flesh into a living planetarium where every nebula, swirl, and constellation tells a story only the wearer truly knows. Take the woman who inks the Pleiades cluster along her collarbone, each star marking a year she survived illness, or the sailor whose forearm blooms with a custom galaxy, its spirals charting ports visited and storms weathered. These tattoos don't just reference the universe, They collapse its vastness into something deeply personal, a secret dialogue between body and cosmos. The artistry behind these designs is as precise as it is poetic. Master tattooists like Dr. Wu or Tiny Miss Becca don't just replicate Hubble images, they reinterpret them through human lens. A watercolor supernova might bleed into a loved one's handwriting, while a geometric Orion's belt doubles as a tribute to siblings. The best cosmic tattoos play with scale in ways that would make Escher proud. A black hole nestled in the dip of a wrist, its event horizon dissolving into freckles, or a crescent moon phases tattoo that only aligns correctly when the wearer's arm bends at just the right angle. This isn't astronomy copied, it's cosmology collaborated, with needle and epidermis as partners in creation. What's fascinating is how these tattoos mirror ancient traditions while embracing cutting-edge science. Polynesian navigators once marked their legs with star maps as mnemonic devices, their tattoos functioning as GPS. Today's celestial ink often incorporates real data, like the cancer survivor who tattooed the exact radioactive isotope used in their treatment as an atomic model surrounded by protective constellations. Others go meta, like the astrophysicist who inked an equation for cosmic expansion along her ribs, the formula warping subtly with each breath to mimic spacetime's elasticity. The pain factor adds another layer of meaning. There's a reason people choose to endure hours under the needle for these designs. The process itself mirrors cosmic transformation. A tattoo artist's gun vibrates at frequencies not unlike pulsars, while the healing skin scabbing over stardust echoes nebulas coalescing into planets. Some describe the experience as secular ritual, their bodies becoming sites of both personal and universal alchemy. But perhaps the most radical aspect is how these tattoos challenge permanence. Galaxies fade as skin ages, supernovas blur with time. Unlike paint on canvas, cosmic tattoos are alive, their colors shifting as the body changes, their meanings evolving like stars undergoing nuclear fusion. A couple's matching Big Dipper tattoos might drift apart like actual stars over millennia, or a quasar inked during a wild youth might mellow into a nostalgic glow. This imperfection is the point, not photorealism, but a dialogue with entropy, a reminder that even the universe itself is temporary. In the end, these tattoos are more than skin deep. They're waypoints on a human journey, maps of inner space projected outward. When someone chooses to wear a black hole on their thigh or the exact night sky of their child's birth across their back, they're not just decorating their body. They're asserting, in the boldest terms possible, that their story, their joy, grief, resilience belongs to something grander. The cosmos isn't just overhead, it's under their skin, pulsing in time with their heartbeat. Fashion runways have become the most unexpected portals to the cosmos, where silk and tulle transform into swirling nebulae and metal seams trace the trajectories of comets. Iris van Herpen's 2019 synesthesia collection didn't just reference space, it weaponized its chaos. Models strode down the catwalk in gowns that seemed to crystallize mid-explosion, their 3D printed bodices crackling with fractal patterns inspired by cosmic microwave background radiation. One dress, molded from liquid acrylic, captured the exact moment a supernova's shockwave freezes in time, its jagged edges glinting like a dying star's final breath. Van Herpen collaborated with physicists to achieve these textures, using algorithms to simulate how stellar winds sculpt dust clouds, then translating those models into laser-cut fabric. The result, a wearable astronomy that doesn't just mimic the universe, but moves with its same unpredictable grace. Alexander McQueen's final collection before his death, Plato's Atlantis, took a darker approach. Here, models became alien hybrids slithering down the runway in garments that FUSED, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter with exoplanet topography. One infamous dress, painstakingly embroidered with iridescent scales, shifted colors under lights like methane lakes on Titan, while towering, armadillo boots echoed the chitinous carapaces scientists speculate might armor lifeforms on high-gravity worlds. McQueen wasn't designing for Earth, he was costuming a future where humanity sheds its terrestrial skin. The collection's climax saw a model encased in a copper wire cocoon, her face obscured by a bulbous mask, as if mid-metamorphosis into something post-human. It was less fashion show than evolutionary prophecy, but cosmic couture isn't just for the avant-garde. Korean designer Lee Sangbong's stellar line embedded LED constellations into hanbok skirts, their stars twinkling in sync with the wearer's footsteps, a nod to both traditional celestial robes worn by Joseon dynasty astronomers and modern space tourism. Meanwhile, Dutch brand Cosmic Debris crafts jackets with heat-sensitive panels that react to atmospheric changes, blooming into aurora borealis patterns when temperatures drop. Even fast fashion has caught on. Zara's viral galaxy print leggings, though mass-produced, democratized the celestial aesthetic, draping supermarket shoppers in affordable supernova. The most provocative works challenge colonialism's grip on space imagery. Nigerian designer Adebayo Oak Lawal's Orange Culture collection reimagined astronaut suits as West African ceremonial wear, adorning them with Yoruba beadwork and indigo-dyed Kent cloth. His message, the future of spacefaring belongs to all cultures, not just those with the biggest rockets. Similarly, Bhutanese designer Damas Mandala series transformed NAS, satellite images of the Himalayas into brocade patterns, stitching Earth observation data into traditional Thanka weaving techniques. These pieces don't just borrow cosmic motifs, they recenter them, proving that the night sky has always been a shared canvas across civilizations. What makes this movement revolutionary is its refusal to treat the cosmos as mere decoration. When Dutch artist Paulin van Dongen embeds solar panels into coats that charge phones using sunlight, mirroring how spacecraft harness energy, or when MIT's Second Skin project prototypes spacesuit liners that self-heal like starfish tissue, fashion becomes a testing ground for off-world survival. The runway turns laboratory, the model, an astronaut in training. No longer confined to museums or textbooks, the universe now struts, pulses, and shimmers on bodies in motion, a reminder that the next giant leap for mankind might begin not with a rocket launch, but with a single starlit stitch. Heston Blumenthal's The Fat Duck restaurant doesn't just serve food, it stages cosmic theater. Picture a dish called Sound of the Sea arriving at your table. A glistening beach of tapioca sand and edible foam waves, crowned with a translucent sheet resembling ice infused with ozone essence. But it's his lunar module dessert that catapults dining into interstellar territory, a sphere of white chocolate and passion fruit masquerading as a moon, its surface pocked with craters of caramelized yogurt, dusted with activated charcoal to mimic regolith. As you crack it open with a spoon, vapor escapes like a spaceship's exhaust, filling the air with the scent of frozen raspberries and liquid nitrogen. This isn't just molecular gastronomy, it's edible astrophysics, where every bite collapses the distance between the kitchen and the cosmos. The magic lies in how these creations weaponize all the senses. At Barcelona's Cinc Sentits, chef Jordi Artel crafts a nebula cocktail, served in a chilled glass that clouds when poured, its swirling hues of violet and cobalt shifting like the Helix Nebula under UV light. The trick, butterfly pea flower extract, whose pigments morph with pH changes, and a glycerin mist that clings to the glass like interstellar dust. Meanwhile, Tokyo's Topper's molecular bar reimagines Saturn's rings as a floating disk of freeze-dried mango, hovering over a bowl of liquid helium-chilled sorbet, a dessert so cold it steams like a cryovolcano on Enceladus. These chefs aren't just plating pretty food, they're engineering multisensory illusions that make diners feel like they've tasted the void itself. What's revolutionary is how these dishes democratize cosmic wonder. You don't need a telescope or physics degree to grasp the awe of a black hole when it's served as a spinning chocolate dome, collapsing into a center of salted caramel singularity. Or when Mugaritz in Spain presents a meteorite course, a scorched truffle dumpling that crackles audibly as it's submerged in broth, recreating the sound of a space rock entering Earth's atmosphere. Even the textures whisper science. The crunch of freeze-dried beetle larvae, a sustainable protein nod to future space colonies at Copenhagen's NOMA, mirrors the granularity of asteroid regolith sampled by Japan's Hayabusa probe. But the real genius is in the storytelling. At Dinner by Heston, the meat fruit, a medieval-inspired Mandarin-glazed chicken liver parfait shaped like a planet, comes with a side of holographic projection mapping the dish's historical orbit from 14th century royal banquets to modern tables. It's gastronomy as time travel, where every course charts humanity's evolving relationship with the cosmos. Similarly, El Celler de Can Roca's Anarchy dessert deconstructs a quasar into edible components. Spun sugar, relativistic jets, quenelles of black sesame ice cream representing accretion disks, and popping candy that simulates particle showers. These aren't just meals, they're edible lectures where dessert forks become tools for decoding the universe's secrets. The trend is even colonizing home kitchens. Instagram chefs now whip up galaxy macarons using edible glitter and gel food coloring, while DIY comet cakes feature tales of torched meringues streaking across fondant night skies. Molecular gastronomy kits let amateurs recreate the Fat Duck's lunar modules with dry ice and calcium lactate. And when NASA collaborated with high school students to develop a Martian soil chocolate bark using actual regolith simulant mixed with cocoa, it proved space cuisine isn't just for Michelin stars, it's the next frontier of culinary literacy. Perhaps that's the ultimate triumph of edible astronomy. By transforming cosmic phenomena into something you can savor, where supernova burst on your tongue as carbonated sherbet, and dark matter becomes a mousse so dense it bends the spoon, these chefs achieve what textbooks cannot. They make the universe delicious, proving that wonder isn't just something we observe. It's something we ingest, digest, and carry within us, one extraordinary bite at a time. Italo Calvino's Cosmicomics doesn't just tell stories about the universe, it lets the universe tell its own. Take The Distance of the Moon, where lovers chase each other across a lunar surface so close to Earth that characters paddle boats through the sky to harvest moon milk. Calvino's genius lies in turning astrophysical facts like the moon's gradual retreat from Earth into fables dripping with whimsy and heartbreak. His cosmic tales aren't dry science lessons, they're metamorphic, where the Big Bang becomes a love triangle and galaxies whisper gossip across light years. By grafting human longing onto celestial phenomena, Calvino reveals a startling truth. The cosmos isn't cold or indifferent. It's a stage where gravity, time, and chance perform the oldest dramas of desire and loss. Octavia Butler's parable novels take this further, weaponizing the cosmic perspective to confront Earth's most urgent crises. When her protagonist Lauren Olamina coins the phrase, "God is change," and dreams of founding a colony among the stars, she's not escaping Earth's collapse, she's redefining divinity itself as a force as relentless as entropy. Butler's space isn't a blank slate for colonial fantasies. It's a crucible that distills humanity to its essence. Her characters don't conquer planets. they negotiate with them, learning that survival hinges not on domination but adaptation. The alien landscapes in Dawn's Xenogenesis trilogy biomess that pulse like living organs aren't backdrops. They're active participants in the narrative, challenging human arrogance with every symbiotic root and sentient fog. What makes these literary universes so electrifying is their refusal to separate science from soul. Stanislaw Lem's Solaris imagines a sentient ocean that manifests human memories as physical hallucinations, turning a planet into a psychiatrist's couch. The ocean isn't just alien, it's a mirror reflecting humanity's obsession with being understood while remaining utterly incomprehensible itself. Similarly, Ted Chiang's Story of Your Life, adapted into Arrival, uses Heisenberg's uncertainty principle as a narrative device, where learning an alien language rewires the protagonist's brain to perceive time as a physicist does, all at once, with past and future unfolding like a cosmic panorama. These stories don't just borrow scientific concepts, they interrogate them, asking whether light-speed communication is worth the loneliness or if non-linear time makes grief more bearable. The cosmic in literature also thrives in quiet, unexpected places. In Emily St. John Mandel's Station 11, a traveling Shakespeare troupe performs in post-apocalyptic towns under a sky suddenly free of light pollution, the restored Milky Way looming as both a beacon and a rebuke. Here, the stars aren't symbols of escape but reminders of what endures: art, connection, and the stubborn human itch to create meaning. Even children's books like The Little Prince wield celestial imagery with razor precision. The prince's tiny asteroid, with its baobab roots threatening to split it apart, becomes a parable about nurturing fragile worlds, whether ecological or emotional. The thread connecting these works, they treat space not as a setting but as a language. When China Miéville's Embassy Town crafts aliens who can only comprehend metaphors once humans teach them to lie, or when N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth trilogy imagines a moon whose tidal forces trigger apocalyptic quakes, they're not world-building, they're thought-building. These authors use the cosmos to crack open questions too vast for earthbound frames. What does it mean to communicate across unbridgeable divides? Can justice exist in a universe ruled by collision and decay? The answers might float, unspoken, in the dark between stars, but literature gives us the courage to reach for them anyway. Gaming's interactive universes have shattered the boundaries between player and creator, turning every joystick into a brush and every screen into a canvas for cosmic expression. Take No Man's Sky, a game so vast it would take you 500 billion years to visit every one of its procedurally generated planets. But here's the twist, it's not just about scale. Each world is a unique collision of algorithms and artistry, where molten sapphire rivers carve through fields of crystalline grass, and skies pulse with auroras generated by mathematical poetry. Players don't just explore these worlds, they name them, document alien flora with in-game cameras, and leave behind bases that glimmer like neon constellations for others to discover. This isn't just gaming, it's collective myth-making where a teenager in Tokyo and a retiree in Oslo can co-author a galaxy's lore, one uploaded discovery at a time. Then there's Elite Dangerous, a sandbox so scientifically rigorous, astronomers use its Stellar Forge engine to visualize real exoplanet data. Fly too close to a neutron star, and your cockpit shakes with simulated gravitational waves. Mine asteroids in a gas giant's rings, and you'll see ice particles obey actual orbital mechanics. But what's mesmerizing is how players transform this precision into personal narratives. One commander spent years mapping the galaxy's outer rim, her ship's hull scarred by micrometeoroids, her logs filled with poetic musings on the loneliness of untracked systems. Another organized a funeral procession of starships escorting a fallen player's ashes to a black hole, a digital Viking burial in the void. These aren't scripted quests, they're emergent stories, proof that when you give humans a universe, they'll fill it with meaning. Indie darlings push this further. Outer Wilds, not to be confused with the Outer Worlds, wraps cosmic horror and childlike wonder into a time-looping solar system where every planet is a physics playground. One moment you're threading your spaceship through a cyclone on a water world, the next you're unraveling an ancient civilization's secrets inside a quantum moon that vanishes when you blink. The game doesn't hold your hand. It trusts you to connect the dots between supernova and scribbled cave paintings, turning astrophysics into a detective story. Meanwhile, Sable's minimalist desert planets evoke Mobius comics, proving cosmos don't need photorealism to feel infinite. Its dunes stretch into watercolor horizons, and every crumbling spaceship wreck whispers about the tension between wanderlust and rootedness. The magic lies in how these games democratize cosmic creativity. You don't need a telescope or a physics degree to build a ringed planet in Universe Sandbox, where dragging your cursor can hurl moons into gas giants just to watch the fireworks. Space Engine lets anyone pilot a starship through a scientifically accurate universe, from the scorched plains of Venus to the hypothetical oceans of Europa, all while Carl Sagan's Cosmos soundtrack swells in the background. Even Minecraft's modders have constructed working telescopes and rocket ships, stitching NASA blueprints into blocky worlds. These games aren't escapes, they're invitations to participate in the universe's unfolding, to leave thumbprints on the celestial dough. What's revolutionary is how they blur the line between art and science. When Kerbal Space Program players share designs for Saturn V replicas that actually obey Newton's laws, or when Stellaris factions wage war using relativistic weapons straight from R-Ziv papers, gaming becomes a stealth classroom. But it's the unscripted moments that linger, the quiet awe of cresting a Martian ridge in Red Dead Redemption 2's secret space mission, or the collective gasp when Destiny 2 community solved a puzzle so complex it required players to translate alien symbols using real-world linguistics. These aren't just games, they're shared rituals, proving that the cosmos sings loudest when we explore it together. The classroom ceiling used to be just a blank surface, until students in Chicago's Universe of Art program transformed it into a swirling nebula. Armed with UV paint and projections, these middle schoolers didn't just sketch planets. They mapped real exoplanet data onto murals, turning their school into a walkable planetarium. This isn't arts and crafts time. It's a radical experiment in education where quadratic equations and watercolor brushes share equal space. The project's secret sauce, pairing each student with a working astronomer who provides raw datasets, light curves from distant stars, topographical scans of Martian craters, that kids reinterpret through batik, stop-motion animation, or even choreographed dance. One team translated the Fibonacci sequence into a spiral galaxy sculpture, its golden ratios mirroring both sunflower seeds and the arms of the Whirlpool galaxy. Suddenly, abstract math isn't just numbers on a page, it's the blueprint of beauty itself. Museums are flipping the script too. The Smithsonian's Art of Space initiative lets visitors touch 3D printed supernova remnants, their fingers tracing shockwaves frozen in nylon. Across the Atlantic, London's Royal Observatory blends astrophotography with poetry slams, where teenagers riff on black hole physics in verse. Event horizons don't erase, they redshift memories into light. Recited one teen, her words projected onto a dome swirling with simulated gravitational waves. These programs recognize a truth textbooks often miss, that the coldest equations glow hottest when filtered through human creativity. The magic happens in the interdisciplinary cracks. At MIT's Space Canvas Lab, engineering students collaborate with glassblowers to create delicate models of protoplanetary disks, sculptures that reveal how molecular forces shape infant solar systems. A professor there noted how art students spotted structural flaws in spacecraft designs that engineers had overlooked, their trained eyes catching asymmetries hidden in plain sight. Meanwhile, NASA Imagine the Universe Challenge invites kids to design alien ecosystems based on extremophile biology, with winning entries like a silicon-based life form that photosynthesizes using gamma rays, a concept later cited in a peer-reviewed astrobiology paper. What's revolutionary isn't just the blend of science and art, it's the democratization of who gets to interpret the cosmos. When rural students in Namibia paint the Magellanic Clouds using ochre pigments from their ancestral lands, or when visually impaired learners in Tokyo see the pillars of creation through soundscapes that convert gas densities into piano notes, the universe stops being a distant abstraction. It becomes a conversation, one where a child's crayon drawing of a quasar might reveal fresh insights about jet propulsion, or a ceramic model of the cosmic microwave background cracks under the kiln's heat, accidentally demonstrating spacetime's inflationary theory. The lesson echoing through these classrooms and galleries: that wonder isn't the enemy of rigor, it's the spark. When a fifth grader spends weeks perfecting a clay model of Jupiter's great red spot, only to discover the math behind its storm dynamics, they're not just memorizing facts. They're living the scientific method in its purest form, curiosity leading to creation, creation demanding comprehension. The ultimate test comes when these students present their work to astrophysicists not as a school assignment, but as a peer exchange. Your painting captures the turbulence of accretion disks better than our simulations. One researcher told a high schooler whose abstract swirls accidentally mirrored new plasma flow models. In these moments, the boundary between teacher and student dissolves, leaving only stardust and shared discovery in its wake. Trevor Paglen's orbital reflector wasn't just a sculpture, it was a grenade tossed into the debate over who controls the cosmos. Conceived as a diamond-shaped satellite wrapped in reflective mylar, designed to flare sunlight into a temporary constellation visible from Earth, the project sparked outrage before it even launched. Critics called it space graffiti, an act of celestial colonization by an artist with no claim to the skies. But Paglen's intent was precisely the opposite: to expose how governments and corporations had already turned the heavens into a battleground for surveillance and profit. His floating mirror wasn't claiming territory, it was holding up a literal reflection to the thousands of classified satellites already orbiting unnoticed, their lenses trained downward on us instead of outward toward the stars. The controversy revealed a painful truth: even the void isn't empty of power struggles. This tension between exploration and exploitation isn't new. When corporations copyright images of the Crab Nebula or trademark constellations for luxury brands, they're repeating patterns older than telescopes. Colonial empires once claimed celestial bodies through mythological naming rights. Jupiter's moons bear the lovers of a Greek god, while Martian features honor European astronomers. Today's new space billionaires continue the tradition, slapping company logos on rocket hulls and auctioning naming rights for exoplanets. But indigenous artists like Cree painter Jason Carter push back, overlaying Cree star stories onto Hubble images to remind viewers that the sky has always been a shared storybook, not a blank slate for corporate slogans. His Star Blanket series transforms astronomical photographs into beadwork-like designs, asserting that cosmic representation isn't just about accuracy, it's about authority. The ethical lines blur further when cultural symbols enter the fray. A Navajo weaver incorporating the Pleiades into a tapestry draws from ancestral knowledge. A fashion house mass-producing tribal galaxy prints risks reducing sacred cosmology to a marketing trend. The distinction often lies in consent and context. Maori artist George Nuku carves celestial navigational charts into plexiglass, fusing traditional Polynesian wayfinding with modern materials, a deliberate evolution. But when a viral NFT project copied Aboriginal dot painting techniques to depict the Southern Cross without consultation, it sparked global outcry. These clashes reveal a fundamental question. Can art inspired by the cosmos ever be truly neutral, or does it always carry the fingerprints of its creator's power structures? Surveillance adds another layer. Paglen's The Last Pictures project etched 100 photographs onto a gold-plated disc mounted to a communications satellite, a time capsule of human violence and beauty orbiting long after our extinction. The work doubles as a critique. While this satellite beams corporate data today, its art payload ensures it will someday become archaeology, forcing future civilizations to confront our contradictions. Similarly, forensic architecture's cloud studies uses satellite imagery to track chemical weapons attacks, repurposing orbital technology from tools of obfuscation to instruments of accountability. These artists aren't just depicting space, they're exposing how its infrastructure enables earthly injustices, from drone strikes to climate denial. Yet hope glimmers in collaborative models. The Away Team project pairs astronomers with Sami storytellers to reinterpret ESA data through Arctic sky lore, while the Open Space Initiative releases NAS of visuals under Creative Commons licenses. Even Paglen's contentious satellite invited public participation. Its brightness varied based on crowd-sourced votes, making celestial visibility a democratic act. Perhaps the answer isn't fewer artists in space, but more diverse ones. When Ethiopian-American designer Lula Gebrekidin creates spacecraft interiors inspired by rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, or when Navajo engineer Aaron Yazzie collaborates with JPL to name Mars features in Dene Bizod, they're not just decorating the cosmos. They're rewriting its ownership rules one orbit at a time. The stars belong to everyone's gaze, but their stories deserve more than a single teller. Imagine a Martian sunset not confined to canvas or screen, but hovering in your living room as a holographic sculpture, its dust-scattered light bending around furniture, shifting as you walk through it. Holographic space art won't just depict the cosmos. It will inhabit our spaces, turning homes into portals. Artists like Hito Steol are already experimenting with light field projections that simulate zero-gravity environments, where nebulae pulse in midair, responding to touch like viscous starstuff. But the real breakthrough will come when these technologies merge with real-time space data. Picture a hologram of Jupiter's storms fed by a Juno probe, its great red spot churning above your coffee table, updated hourly with atmospheric changes. This isn't just decoration, it's a living dialogue with distant worlds, where art becomes a sensory extension of robotic explorers millions of miles away. Meanwhile, nanotechnology could shrink cosmic artistry to scales even Hubble can't capture. Scientists at MIT have already manipulated individual atoms to create quantum dot paintings visible only under electron microscopes. Now imagine applying that precision to astro art, a single grain of Martian regolith etched with a micro-portrait of Olympus Mons, its slopes detailed at the nanometer level. Or a wearable pendant containing a vial of lab-grown diamonds, each impurity positioned to mirror the exact arrangement of stars in the Andromeda galaxy. These nano-canvases won't just represent the universe, they'll embed it, turning jewelry into pocket observatories and dust into archives. The most provocative collaborations, though, will unfold between artists and astroarchaeologists. As humans land on Mars, we'll confront a thorny question. How do you document a new chapter of history without repeating Earth's colonial mistakes? Enter the memory sculptors, artists trained in forensic archaeology, who'll use 3D spectral imaging to preserve the first footprints in alien soil before dust storms erase them. They might cast those footprints in biodegradable bioplastics derived from engineered bacteria, creating artifacts that degrade over centuries, leaving no trace but oral histories. Others could design time capsules for Mars habitats, not metal boxes, but living murals of extremophile algae that change color based on radiation exposure, silently recording the wear and tear of human settlement. Critically, these artists won't just celebrate colonization, they'll interrogate it. Picture a performance piece where dancers in pressure suits reenact the moon landings on Mars, but with movement slowed to 1/6 speed, highlighting the absurdity of reenacting Earth's space race on foreign soil. Or a viral AR filter that superimposes indigenous land acknowledgements over photos of Martian terrain, reminding settlers that even new worlds deserve ethical frameworks. The most powerful works might be invisible to the eye, sound installations broadcasting the infrasound of Martian winds into Earth's financial districts, forcing stock traders to hear the whispers of a planet they'll never walk on. What unites these visions is their rejection of passivity. Future cosmic art won't just hang on walls, it will challenge, decay, evolve, and demand participation. It might take forms we can't yet fathom, bioengineered sculptures that grow like lichen in spacecraft airlocks, or AI poets generating odes in the syntax of gravitational waves. But one thing's certain as we reach for the stars, artists will be there first, not just to document the journey, but to ask whether we're worthy of the destination. The canvas of the future isn't a rectangle, it's the void itself, waiting for us to fill it with more than just footprints. From cave walls to virtual reality, the cosmic renaissance reveals that art is humanity's most enduring telescope, a tool not just for seeing the universe, but for feeling it. Think about the Paleolithic artist who daubed starry mammoths on limestone, or the Baroque painter who smuggled Galileo's moon sketches into cathedral frescoes. These creators weren't just documenting the heavens, they were stitching the cosmos into the fabric of human experience, turning distant specks of light into something that could quicken the pulse or tighten the throat. Art's power lies in its ability to collapse the unimaginable into the intimate, to take the cold equations of orbital mechanics and transform them into Van Gogh's swirling cypress trees, or to distill the violence of a supernova into the tremble of a violin string in a symphonic ode to the stars. This tradition isn't a relic, it's a living continuum. When a teenager in Lagos films a TikTok dance under a sky streaked with satellite trails, or when a bioartist in Tokyo engineers bacteria to glow like the Andromeda Galaxy, they're wielding the same creative impulse that guided Inca astronomers to align their temples with solstice sunbeams. The tools have evolved from charcoal and stained glass to neural networks and CRISPR, but the mission remains to translate the universe's grand abstractions into stories we can hold in our hands, our hearts, our collective memory. And what stories they've been! The Renaissance mapped the heavens as geometric perfection. The Romantics painted them as sublime terror. Afrofuturists reclaimed the night sky as a canvas for liberation, while indigenous artists wove star lore into baskets and beadwork, preserving celestial knowledge colonization tried to erase. Every movement, every brushstroke, every pixel adds another verse to an epic poem humanity's been composing for 30,000 years. Now, as we stand on the precipice of becoming an interplanetary species, the stakes of this creative dialogue have never been higher. Will we export Earth's beauty and curiosity to Mars' rust-colored plains, or repeat the same cycles of exploitation? The answer might lie in the artists already reimagining our cosmic future, not as a sterile tech utopia, but as a tapestry rich with the threads of all cultures, all voices. When Navajo engineers name Martian landmarks in Diné Bizaad, or when Syrian refugees project their folk songs onto VR exoplanets, they're doing more than decorating the void. They're ensuring that spacefaring doesn't homogenize humanity, it amplifies us. So tonight, when you step outside and tilt your head back, remember, you're not just a spectator of the cosmos. You're a collaborator. Whether you sketch Jupiter's storms in a notebook, code a generative nebula, or simply let the Milky Way's sprawl ignite a daydream, you're part of this grand project, the eternal human urge to reach beyond the visible and touch the infinite. The universe may not care about our art, but that's precisely why it matters. In a cosmos of black holes and dark energy, we are the ones who insist on meaning, on beauty, on connection. And that's a story worth painting across the stars.